Good evening, and welcome to the 21st Hubert H. Humphrey Public Leadership Awards. Please direct your attention to the video screens.
Justice depends on a fair process.
Public life requires a lot of sacrifice.
This desire to truly transform our communities.
I have succeeded working with people because we believed in each other.
Nonprofit journalism is getting a huge momentum right now.
We can't be silenced. We have to continue to tell the story.
So our future is all about equitable development.
And being able to really bring up civic leaders.
Wanting to promote women in all different fashions.
But beyond just teaching girls what they can do, taught everyone else what girls can do.
We should be thinking about how businesses are working to advance the common good.
What is my responsibility?
And do the big things that matter most to the future of our economy.
The clean water, the clean air, people just kind of take a lot of that for granted.
My first reaction is that this ice is going to dictate the future of humanity. It's a moral imperative that we come together.
What can I do in service to others?
Because I think it's so important to continue to learn and grow and stretch.
Being engaged in a world that needed to have freshness.
That affect the lives of women and children and families.
And how do we find joy in the middle of our struggles?
In getting meaningful things done.
We've been through thick and thin, through many different situations.
And to be committed to continuing to push forward.
And there's different kinds of support. It starts with our families.
And a belief that everyone has it in them.
And what we can actually dream up and envision to be real.
And that's what this institution means.
A huge sense of purpose.
In transferring that knowledge into something that is actionable.
If I can crack a hole in the glass ceiling, I want to crack it wide enough
to solve these problems.
Taking action to make a difference.
To be able to help others reach higher.
Of making people feel so comfortable.
And that faith in people to inspire and encourage young and old.
With that attitude, you're going to lift others as you climb. Then you're going to be succeeding together.
One of the most famous opening lines from Freedom's Journal is, "Too long have others spoken for us."
Policy touches all of our work, and so who are those curious leaders in our community?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Humphrey School of Public Affairs Public Leadership Awards program. This is the hardest part of the night, which is to get all of the amazing conversations to stop just for a moment so we can engage in the celebration of public leaders. I'm just going to check with the fantastic team in the back to see if there is any way that we can show that amazing video again, because I want to make sure you all see it. It really gives you a sense of the voices of leadership that have come before this night and sets the tone for us to proceed. So so it's a yes. Great, thank you. So we're going to cast our eyes to the screens to your right or left, and then I'll return to the mic. Thank you.
Justice depends on a fair process.
Public life requires a lot of sacrifice.
This desire to truly transform our communities.
I have succeeded working with people because we believed in each other.
Nonprofit journalism is getting a huge momentum right now.
We can't be silenced. We have to continue to tell the story.
So our future is all about equitable development.
And being able to really bring up civic leaders.
Wanting to promote women in all different fashions.
But beyond just teaching girls what they can do, taught everyone else what girls can do.
We should be thinking about how businesses are working to advance the common good.
What is my responsibility?
And do the big things that matter most to the future of our economy.
The clean water, the clean air, people just kind of take a lot of that for granted.
My first reaction is that this ice is going to dictate the future of humanity. It's a moral imperative that we come together.
What can I do in service to others?
Because I think it's so important to continue to learn and grow and stretch.
Being engaged in a world that needed to have freshness.
To affect the lives of women and children and families. And how do we find joy in the middle of our struggles?
In getting meaningful things done.
We've been through thick and thin, through many different situations.
And to be committed to continuing to push forward.
And there's different kinds of support. It starts with our families.
And a belief that everyone has it in them.
And what we can actually dream up and envision to be real.
And that's what this institution means.
A huge sense of purpose.
In transferring that knowledge into something that is actionable.
If I can crack a hole in the glass ceiling, I want to crack it wide enough
to solve these problems.
Taking action to make a difference.
To be able to help others reach higher.
Of making people feel so comfortable.
And that faith in people to inspire and encourage young and old.
With that attitude, you're going to lift others as you climb. Then you're going to be succeeding together.
One of the most famous opening lines from Freedom's Journal is, "Too long have others spoken for us."
Policy touches all of our work, and so who are those curious leaders in our community?
Welcome, 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 everyone. I'm Nisha Bochwe, the Dean of the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, and it is my honor, thank you. It is my honor to open the 21st Hubert H. Humphrey Public Leadership Awards program with you this evening. The stories you've just heard are a powerful reminder of the voices that guide our community. Tonight, we also hold space for another voice we've lost, Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman, and the profound impact she and her family have had on Minnesota. Melissa was not only a historic leader for Minnesota, but also part of our Humphrey School family. As an instructor, mentor, and friend, she inspired students through her teaching on climate change policy. She joined us at this very event just last year. Her absence is deeply felt, and her legacy is lasting. Before we continue with tonight's celebration, I invite us into a moment of silence. We remember Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, and their families.
But there's another way to think about a voice. And in that sense, someone like Melissa Hortman and Mark Hortman have left and will continue to leave a voice that is still in our head, even though they're no longer with us. Because we, and certainly I, am inspired by them, what they stood for, who they were. On Earth, their voices are gone. Their voices remain and will remain for a long, long time.
Thank you. The musical selections you'll now hear were chosen by Melissa's children, Colin and Sophie, for a playlist they shared on The Current to honor the lives of their parents. These songs reflect the joy, the love, and the community the Hortmans created, and we are honored to share them with you. Thank you. Thank you. And again, welcome. We gather in the name of service and hope, per aspera ad astra. From my Latin scholars in the audience, you probably know what that means, but for everyone else, that means through hardship to the stars. Tonight, we recognize the leaders who have faced challenges, lit paths forward, and built bridges toward the common good. We are so pleased to be joined tonight by many distinguished guests and friends. When we started the list, it went on and on. So apologies in advance if I don't call your name. And thank you all for being here. But let me recognize from the University of Minnesota, our president, Rebecca Cunningham. So it's a long list, so we're gonna wait until the big groups. But thank you, President Cunningham. Provost Gretchen Ritter is here. Regents Robin Gully, Ted Johnson, Sam Hines, and Ellen Luger. Will you just wave so we can see where you are? Thank you for being here tonight. Karen Diver, Senior Advisor to the President for Native American Affairs, is here. And Vice President Mercedes Ramirez-Fernandez from the Office of Equity and Diversity. Where are you, Mercedes? Please, let's welcome them, our leadership from the University of Minnesota. From Minnesota's leadership, the state of Minnesota, we have Secretary of State Steve Simon and Senator Claire Omu-Vabetan, and her husband, Ramsey County Commissioner Garrison McErtree. Let's give them a round of applause. From St. John's and St. Ben's University, so St. John's University and the College of St. Benedict's, President Brian Brees, and from St. Catherine's University, President Marquita Evans. Would you give them a round of applause? And we are honored to welcome a remarkable group of former officials and civic leaders, including Lieutenant Governors Joan Benson and Marlene Johnson. Where are you? Yes. Former Mayor Sharon Sales Belton and Ben Schieffer. Former Attorney General Skip Humphrey. Former Secretary of State Mark Ritchie, former Speaker of the House Margaret Anderson Keeler, and former legislators Ruth Richardson and Ember Rycott. Let's give them all a round of applause. We are grateful for their dedication to lives of public service. I'd also like to celebrate our international fellows who are here representing an exchange of ideas and leadership from across the globe, and our own very policy fellows, so my international fellows, and then our policy fellows. Would you wave so we can see where you are as well? Welcome. And not last, absolutely not last, I have a few more on the list. But I do want to recognize our faculty. We have some of the very best faculty in the nation at the Humphrey School, and I just want to recognize them. Would you just wave so we can see where you are as well? Thank you all for being here. I also want to recognize our Humphrey Advisory and Honorary Council members, our faculty, staff, students, including the international fellows, and as I just note, the Advisory Council and Honorary Council members, if you just take a look at the name tags, those individuals who serve on our Advisory and Honorary Councils have a special star. And so as you have questions on the Humphrey School, but also are thinking through ways that you can support us, please take a look at those. And then we have past honorees, some who you saw in the video. Marilyn Carlson Nelson is here. Let's celebrate Marilyn. Kiyoshi Nakasaka is here as well. Welcome, Kiyoshi. I believe Sharon Sales Belton is here with us tonight. Sharon. I know Will Steger is in the room. Will. And Anita Patel from the Bush Foundation is also here. Congratulations on our past awardees. And finally, a heartfelt thanks to our sponsors, Best Buy, Target, Catherine and Dan Whalen, and Carlson and the Carlson Family Foundation. Without your support, we would not have a sold-out room for this very special evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, you're allowed to applaud. This is a night to celebrate leaders whose courage, vision, and commitment reflect the very best of public service. It is also a night to invest in the students who will carry that work forward. I want to acknowledge that we gather on Dakota land. This acknowledgement is not only about history, it's about honoring the leadership of Indigenous peoples today. We are especially grateful to have leaders from tribal nations with us this evening whose voices and vision continue to shape Minnesota's future. We also begin with remembrance and gratitude. We are posthumously honoring Speaker Melissa Hortman, who, along with her husband Mark, was taken from us too soon. Their deaths are not only a personal loss to their families and friends, but to a profound loss to Minnesota and to the spirit of public service. Melissa dedicated her career to the idea that politics could be about building opportunity, advancing equity, and protecting the future. She championed education, healthcare, climate action, and constructive dialogue at the Capitol. She was a relentless advocate for women, for families, and for communities who often went unheard. Her connection to the Humphrey School was also personal. In 2016, Melissa served as an adjunct instructor here, teaching alongside Ellen Anderson and Pat Hamilton in a groundbreaking course on international climate negotiations. She traveled with our students to Morocco to observe the UN climate talks, a trip that has since become a cornerstone of our global learning opportunities. Because of her, more than 50 Humphrey School students have since experienced these negotiations firsthand, shaping their vision for climate justice and international cooperation. Melissa also joined us here at the Public Leadership Awards program just last year, sitting side by side with leaders and friends like Peggy Lucas, celebrating the work of others while embodying that same commitment to advancing the common good. Now, we also honor and remember Mark, who shared her spirit of public service and supported her in the work that touched all of us, so many of us. And we hold in our thoughts Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette, whose lives were forever changed in the same tragic moment of violence. Their stories remind us why this gathering is so important. The Public Leadership Awards are more than honoring individual achievement. It is more than honoring individual achievement. They are about lifting up the values of service, of dialogue, and community that Hubert Humphrey championed and that leaders like Melissa and Mark exemplified. This is why so many of us are here tonight to say we see this work, we honor it, and we carry it forward. So on behalf of the Humphrey School it is my privilege to present the Hubert H. Humphrey Public Leadership Award to Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman. I invite the Hortman family to join me on stage to accept this award.
Thank you. I'm deeply honored to accept this award on behalf of my mom, Melissa Hortman. I am joined in this honor by her parents, Harry and Linda, best friends, Robin and Paul, and my fiance, Alina. Both my mom and dad, Mark, were proud alumni of the University of Minnesota and cherish their time here, as well as their classmates and their professors and their students. My mom always amazed me with her passion from planting trees to children car seat laws. And this recognition is a beautiful tribute to her legacy and their legacy of public service and legislation. Thank you.
Melissa's legacy reminds us of something Hubert Humphrey often said. The moral test of government is how it treats those who are in the dawn of life, the children, those who are in the twilight of life, the aged, and those who are in the shadows of life, the sick, the needy, and the handicapped. That spirit of service, lifting others up, even in times of hardship, might I say especially in times of hardship, is what we celebrate tonight. It is why we gather in this room. It is why we honor leaders who dedicate themselves to the common good. With that spirit in mind, it is now my pleasure to welcome the University of Minnesota President, Rebecca Cunningham.
Thank you, Dean Bochwe, for that warm welcome, and good evening, everyone. Thank you, good evening. Yeah. What an amazing, inspirational group of folks that we have here together. I didn't get to come to this event last year. I'm just starting my second year here. And I'm sort of wishing I was here last year because I would have met everybody really who have had public service in Minnesota apparently in one room together. It's what an amazing group. So I welcome our regents, our university leaders, our elected officials, our guests, our alumni, our faculty, our friends of the Humphrey School. It's an honor to be with you here tonight. You know, I also want to give a shout out to Dean Bochwe because what an amazing job she's doing leading this Humphrey School. That's right. Yeah. At a time when we need public service and we need the next generation of leaders, to have a leader like our dean here who is an inspiration and helping us move forward in that next generation and doing it with such grace and with such values-led leadership is just truly, really important. And I sort of want to ask this crowd, maybe my own learning, if you'll humor me a moment, how many of you are alumni of the Humphrey School, if I can see a little show of hands? Yeah, and now how many of you are University of Minnesota alumni somewhere else? Yeah. Amazing, right? So a real shout out to the University of Minnesota schools across that are continue to be focused on serving the state of Minnesota and creating a generation of leaders that goes on to move the public good. The work of the Humphrey School is a testament, again, to our dean's vision here and how she's carrying that out. And before we begin our celebration, I also want to take a moment to reflect on the profound loss for our state and our university, as tonight we honor Speaker Melissa Hortman posthumously. To the Hortman family here tonight, Colin, Elena, Harry, Linda, Robin, and Paul, we are so sorry for your loss, and we grieve with you here at the University of Minnesota. Melissa's legacy of advancing education, healthcare, and equity across Minnesota will live on for generations. I am honored to have gotten to work with her just briefly last year and could see her commitment to the University of Minnesota and the state. But tonight, we gather here for the 21st Hubert H. Humphrey Public Leadership Awards, an event that celebrates the very heart of the Humphrey School mission, to prepare leaders who are committed to a common good. Vice President Humphrey himself believed deeply that public service was the highest calling and that social justice and progress could only be achieved when we work together. What lessons from that should we take forward into our current daily news cycle? I can only think I might just want to have that one on a loop. The recipients we honor here today are living proof of that belief. Tonight, we celebrate individuals whose courage, integrity, and service have made a tangible difference. We recognize Melanie Benjamin, a powerful voice for tribal sovereignty and a visionary leader. We celebrate Joan Groh, a trailblazer who fought for fair and accessible elections. We honor Dave Kleiss, whose transformative local leadership fostered community and economic development. We recognize Dennis McDowell, whose commitment to excellence in government has served the nation at our highest levels. And of course, we remember the lasting legacy of Speaker Melissa Hortman, whose dedication to advancing a more equitable Minnesota will never be forgotten. This evening is, of course, more than those individual achievements. It is about investing in the future and the future scholars, and a thank you to the faculty who are here who make that next generation of leadership possible. This time, more than any other in our lives, perhaps, we need public leaders to lean in. And we all, and all the years of public service that are represented here, need to help them continue to lean in the times that we live in. The University of Minnesota nurtures students who will go on to lead with purpose in government and nonprofits and communities here and around the globe. I had a wonderful chance to meet some of our international students tonight. The impact of the University of Minnesota and the education they're going to get here on global leadership also just gives me chills. Your generosity here tonight makes a lot of that possible. So together we reaffirm our commitment to a more equitable, just, and prosperous society. The legacy of Hubert H. Humphrey continues to inspire us. You all continue to inspire me. And you know, it's a good time to get a little inspiration in higher ed education these days, so I want to thank you all for that, for your help, and we'll continue together to advance equity and opportunity for all. Thank you again for being here tonight, and it's now my distinct pleasure to introduce Regent Gully.
Thank you, President Cunningham, and good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you tonight again. As a regent and alumni of the Humphrey School, it is an honor to be part of tonight's Humphrey Public Leadership Awards ceremony. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone here this evening, and to thank the Humphrey School for the invitation to say a few words. It is truly my honor, especially as a Humphrey alum, to be able to come and be with all of you. I'm also joined here tonight by my regent colleagues, Tad Johnson, Ellen Luger, and Sam Hines. And I've seen most of them here tonight, so welcome. Before we begin, I want to share a little bit about my story and how I came to be here with you tonight, and what brought me to the Humphrey School as well. I grew up in a working class family. I watched my parents work hard every single day and struggle to meet our family's basic needs. The economic strain was inseparable from the emotional toil that it caused growing up very working class. When I went to college, I realized quickly that I wanted to change the systems that kept families like mine on the brink. And after college, I found an entry-level job where I made a very small impact on a very large civil rights organization. I actually knocked doors for 5 years for marriage equality. I loved being part of that work, and it was often hard to connect my individual efforts to the greater things that we were trying to change because I was a small cog in a very big wheel. And so I knew that if I wanted to change social and economic structures, I first needed to develop my ability to do the work and connect with people who could help me find my place in it. And with its emphasis on elevating the common good, Humphrey stood out as a place where I could learn to do that. So in 2006, so long ago now, I joined the Masters of Public Policy program, and I found Humphrey full of incredibly thoughtful, engaged, and connected faculty, staff, and students, as it is today. Before I knew it, I was being invited into work that I couldn't have even imagined before I got here. After graduating from Humphrey, I spent a few years in the nonprofit sector before I transitioned to working in labor and in education, and eventually I ran for elected office. I now sit both on the Board of Regents and on the West St. Paul City Council, where I get to work on municipal policy as well. My work is better every single day because of what I learned here at Humphrey. When I consider policies and how they'll impact people differently, I think about what I learned in policy analysis, regression analysis, and leadership for the common good. When I need to know what others are thinking about, I reflect on what I learned in my survey research class and in my capstone on refugee resettlement. When I think about how to communicate effectively to diverse audiences, I think about what I practiced in economic development and in my internship and experience at Planned Honduras. And when I consider policy decisions or need to move legislators, I see it through the lens of the learning that I did in human rights advocacy and empirical analysis. I use what I learned at Humphrey every single day to try to make life a little bit easier, kinder, a little less uphill for families just like mine. My time at Humphrey elevated my curiosity and illuminated pathways to make change. And because of it, I get to do work that matters and I believe elevates the common good. And tonight, I have the great honor of introducing a group of people who truly exemplify the qualities that are so important here at the Humphrey School. Curiosity and care and working for the common good, and whose work together has truly changed our world. David Cleese, the longest serving mayor of St. Cloud, stepped down this year after leading the city for 20 years. A visionary leader and local historian, David guided St. Cloud through 2 decades of growth, civic pride, and global recognition, including honors as one of the most livable cities. A U.S. Air Force veteran and former state senator, David brings a deep commitment to public service. Melanie Benjamin, nationally recognized as a leader in tribal governance who has served more than 20 years as the chief executive of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. A steadfast advocate for tribal sovereignty, Melanie has safeguarded the band's homelands and strengthened its voice at the local, state, and federal levels. Joan Grow, Minnesota's Secretary of State from 1975 to 1999, and one of the longest-serving Secretary of States in U.S. history. Joan led efforts to implement same-day voter registration and modernize our voting systems, helping Minnesota achieve the nation's highest voter turnout. She broke barriers for women in government and mentored future leaders. And finally, Dennis McDonough, who has championed effective governance and commitment to excellence while serving at the highest levels of government. Dennis has served as the White House Chief of Staff under President Obama, as Secretary of State, or Secretary of Veterans Affairs under President Biden, And throughout his career, he has advocated for veterans, led with integrity, and delivered results grounded in service, compassion, and a deep commitment to the public good. Each of these recipients, yes, please. appreciate waiting until the end. Each of these recipients has had a significant impact on our university, our region, and our world. And tonight we have the great pleasure of honoring them and appreciating the work that they have done to elevate the common good. It is truly my honor to be here this evening. And now, let me turn it over to Dean Nisha Bostway.
Thank you so much, Robin. I am going to introduce our student speaker, a second-year master's student in public policy and public health. Rachel Beatty grew up in Minnesota and attended the University of Minnesota, graduating in 2020 with a Bachelor's of Science in Biology. She now is a student worker at the Minnesota Department of Health and is interested in health policy with an emphasis on disability policy. Rachel is also someone we've gotten to know well over the last few months, as she was voted to be the Vice President of the Public Affairs Student Association. We are so incredibly proud of Rachel, so please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I first want to thank Dean Bostway and everyone at the Humphrey School for inviting me here tonight. It is truly an honor to be in a room full of people who are actively working to make this world a better place, even when times are as difficult as they are now for public service. And to be honest, I hadn't always pictured myself within the public policy field. My background is in biology and research, and public health had been my prospective degree since I graduated from the University of Minnesota back in 2020. In the fall of 2022, I was getting ready to submit my applications for various public health programs when my life changed drastically. I was a victim of gun violence. It was a random, terrifying act that I never conceived happening to me. 3 bullets entered my body, one of which unfortunately hit my spine. I was left with limited ability below my waist and the uncertainty of ever getting out of a wheelchair. But as many of you can see, that is not the case today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There are many factors that went into the multiple years of recovery that I endured, and in some ways are still enduring. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I received as a spinal cord injury survivor was that your recovery is heavily dependent on 2 things: your mindset and your support system. Mindset is one thing, as typically you have the majority of control in that regard, but support system is something completely different. I was extremely fortunate. I had my parents by my side throughout my entire recovery and was even able to move home with them to have better access to care. All the while, my supportive partner finished his law degree, and he maintained active visits to me, and even my friends made regular trips to come spend time with me in another state. I was never alone, ever. But let's dive a little deeper. My mom's work was exceptionally understanding. They allowed her to take significant time away, and she didn't have to worry about losing her job. This was the same job that provided the health insurance I was covered under when my injury occurred, as I was only 24 at the time. Moving back home with my parents allowed me to attend every doctor's visit, physical therapy appointment, and trauma therapy appointment with minimal financial concern. I was able to take a break from my work position and focus on my physical health for nearly a year. I was taken care of, and not everyone gets that option. So that's when I started to become interested in policy work. See, I still am pursuing a master's of public health, but what led me to health policy work specifically was seeing how it could alter and improve health systems on a larger scale. Health insurance is not a luxury that everyone can readily afford, whether they're disabled or not, and I have seen firsthand how important that access is. So I decided to apply for the Public Policy Master's at Humphrey, and it has been one of the best decisions I have ever made. Humphrey cultivates an environment that gives students like me the resources they need to nourish their passions, which vary greatly. I've met students interested in everything from incarceration reform to public housing, while they're focusing here in the United States and abroad. These students will change the world. I am extremely confident in that. And it is because of places like Humphrey that equip students with the knowledge and skills they need to conquer whatever injustice they come across. If I learned anything in my time in and out of hospitals, it's that my story is neither original nor unique. And while what happened to me still should not have occurred, how I was cared for should not be the exception, but the norm. Supporting public works, yeah. Supporting public works is essential to ensure that this becomes a reality. By supporting Humphrey, and in turn, students like me, you are supporting our collective future. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Laura Bishop and Shep Harris, members of the Dean's Advisory Council and co-chairs of the Public Leadership Awards Committee.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you, Dean Botchway. Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Bishop, and this is my colleague, Shep Harris, and together we have the privilege of chairing this event and also being part of the Advisory Council. So we have a lot of Advisory Council members here. I will say that we are a working Advisory Council. We definitely put in the work and share the dedication to this school. So if you're on the Advisory Council, raise your hand because there's a lot of us here tonight. Thank you. Like many of you, Shep and I were personally touched by the life and service of Speaker Melissa Hortman. Tonight's remembrance reminds us why the Public Leadership Awards matter so deeply, because they lift up leaders who embody the courage, commitment, and care for our community.
That's right. For more than 20 years, the Public Leadership Awards has honored individuals and organizations who show us what public service can achieve. And this year's honorees continue that tradition of impact, equity, and hope.
This night is about recognition, and it's also about investing in our next generation of public leaders. The funds we raise tonight directly support Humphrey School scholarships, opening the doors for students from all backgrounds to pursue public service careers. As someone who has recently been named a senior fellow here at the Humphrey and joined the faculty, I can tell you firsthand how much this school shapes leaders and strengthens democracy.
Okay, so here comes the pitch. You ready? So in these fabulous brochures, the program guides that you have, that each one of you have, in the back of it, you're going to see a QR code. We invite you to scan it and make a gift tonight. Every contribution, regardless of size, large or small, really does help support a student like those you've met here this evening.
Yeah. And really thank you all for being here. We know we're standing in your way of dinner, and so we won't take long, but please, if you can, please make a contribution to this school and for the support of the students. Thank you for carrying forward Hubert H. Humphrey's legacy of hope and action. Enjoy your dinner. Thank you.
Thank you again, everyone. Please continue eating. We are going to transition into the video portion of our program. If you happen to have a napkin, I encourage you to keep it handy. You may have a tear or two that comes forth as we celebrate the public leaders ahead of us. Before I move into our public leaders, I want to recognize two very, very important people who are here tonight. I neglected to highlight them earlier, and they are my Aunt Shirley. Aunt Shirley is here. Where are you, Aunt Shirley? There she is. Aunt Shirley, thank you for being here. I love you. And perhaps the best part of me, my dear loving husband, Ed Bochwe, who is here as well. Thank you for joining. And so with that, let's present our first award. Our first honoree is Dave Kleiss, former mayor of St. Cloud. For 20 years, Mayor Kleiss led with dedication to community engagement, inclusive public service, and regional economic development. He transformed local leadership into a model of collaboration and connection. Please join me in watching this video to showcase the breadth of Dave's legacy.
We as a city, we stand proud.
And to me, connection is the most important thing. City government, local government has the most impact on your day-to-day life.
Town halls, I do town hall meetings.
So I had town hall meetings and these dinner with strangers, so everyone would have an opportunity to feel comfortable in saying what they're going to say. So you call my office, the first 8 people that sign up, we have a dinner. I cook, I make chili. All it was is a meal and a conversation.
But he was always accommodating other people's ideas and interests.
When I was born, they had already moved to town. So 9 kids in our family, so big family in a small house. You know, you understand, the aspect of compromise and, serving in the neighborhood and your community, and then, of course, serving the country in the United States Air Force, serving the state in the Minnesota Senate. But it was St. Cloud State that really opened me up to a different type of service. I ran as a senior and came in, I did miserable. I came in 8th out of 7 candidates that year, and that's a true story.
But it didn't discourage him, and I love that too about him. He has a heart for service. He's not discouraged. He's willing to put himself out there.
During the time I was mayor, we had some very difficult situations. In 2016, we had a stabbing at the mall. We diffused that situation. In fact, I remember the chief and I were live on Fox and CNN in the morning on those morning programs. And because we had the relationships, there was trust in what I said. We had all that in place because we built relationships far before the crisis took place. The civil unrest in 2020 got us through COVID, all of those things. That all was because of relationships. And that I learned a long time ago. We could get through poverty as a family in Litchfield because we had a relationship and a strong unit. You could get through almost anything, especially as a community.
And I know as a community, our future is bright because of the people.
It's one of those things. It's the wonderful opportunity as retirement. Your retirement, but I didn't end relationship building or service. And service isn't going to ever end. It's just another opportunity for another journey to begin.
Dave Kleiss, please join me on the stage.
Wow, I don't normally, thank you, first of all. I am honored. And I normally, people who know me know I don't ever write a speech, but they needed it for closed captioning, so I did. And wow, and it's right here, and I have bad eyesight, so I'll use this. But I am so honored and humbled. I'm especially grateful to share the stage with those being recognized this evening. Wow. What individuals. Each has traveled their own unique path, and by acknowledging their experiences, we find motivation and we find strength. Throughout my life, I've been enriched by the wisdom of others, and perhaps more importantly, inspired by their journeys. As I look in the mirror, I see gray hair, and I've noticed that my dance moves have slowed down on my TikTok videos. So often I find myself in this position of an unexpected position as a mentor, which I embrace wholeheartedly. Many of my mentors are much younger than me, and their journeys, their attitudes, and their unwavering determination remind me that inspiration knows no age. I have great confidence in the next generation. That's why it's wonderful to be at a university. Those folks in the next generation, you are remarkable individuals, each driven by a desire to create a brighter future. No cap. And we celebrate tonight, as we celebrate tonight, we remember as long as there are stories to tell and individuals to recognize, we will always have opportunities to do better for our world. I like to think of myself as a person with a glass, not so much a glass half full, but a glass overfilling. I feel so blessed. Yet I recognize we live in challenging and such divisive times. In these moments, we must acknowledge that there's a willingness and a sacrifice of those who believe in a better world. Community is built on the belief that we can uplift one another, and it begins with storytelling. Our individual narratives weave together to inspire change within ourselves, change within our neighborhoods, change within our communities, and ultimately change within our world. Change starts with one act of kindness, one person willing to take the first step, share a smile, extend a hand. I am grateful to be surrounded by those who have inspired me throughout my life, including those who have passed on and no longer are with us, but they continue to motivate me in spirit. My parents, my oldest brother John, my little brother Tom, Alex, Sasha. I want to especially acknowledge those who are with me here tonight. Sue, James, Tim, Bob, Eunice, Emmanuel, Dom, Ryan, and Joanne. I could speak for about an hour on each one of them. And the people at that table know I can speak for 9 hours without any problem. But they are people who inspire me. They all have incredible stories, and I feel blessed to have your friendship. I also want to mention those who couldn't be here tonight. I have a big family, as you saw in the pictures. My 5 sisters will not drive in the Twin Cities, even though I own a driving school. They wouldn't be here, but I know they're here in spirit. Next time in the future, hold this somewhere in greater Minnesota in a small town, and they'll be fine. I also want to acknowledge Toby and Shilpa, along with their 11-month-old daughter, Layla, who is my youngest mentor. All of them have contributed to who I am today. I urge each of you tonight to positively impact everyone you meet. And I say positively because we all have an impact on everybody, and no matter what we say and what we do, let's make that impact a positive impact. May your contributions lead to a brighter future for all of us. We are saving our own lives to make a better world. Sorry, that's an 80s flashback. Those of you who understand what I just sang, I'm not going to sing it, but It's a "We Are the World." You know, it's going to stick in your night all night. All night you're going to hear that, but it's true, and it's inspiration. You know, we may not always agree on policies or beliefs, but what truly matters is the essence of who we are and the moral compass that guides us. Understanding the heart behind the differing opinions is vital to fostering empathy and connection. We all have so much value to offer. Our worth is measured not by accolades, but by how we treat one another. Let us strive to be good people who uplift, support, and inspire each and every one of us every day. Thank you very much again for this honor. I am humbled, and I appreciate all of you. And there's so many people in this room that I've seen, the old friends that I've seen for a number of years. Thank you, and congratulations to the other honorees. I am so humbled to be among these individuals. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our second honoree is Melanie Benjamin, Chief Executive of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe for more than 20 years. A visionary leader, she has strengthened tribal sovereignty, expanded economic opportunities, and preserved Ojibwe language and culture for generations to come. Let's watch the video.
There was an elder that said we were put on this earth for a purpose.
It is time for all communities to have real conversations about racism, inclusion, and respect for other cultures.
There was the county and different entities that had decided that the Mille Lacs Reservation no longer existed. I worked really hard to make sure that we had that legal opinion that the reservation, it still exists today.
And she ended up hiring almost all band members as her commissioners, and that was a first, and ended up creating the next generation of leadership for the Mille Lacs Band.
It was the elders of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe that decided that they viewed me as the person that would lead the tribe and walk forthrightly into the bright sunshine of human rights. Isn't that cool? Love that. So I grew up in St. Louis under the relocation program. You are taken from your community, your family, and put in this unknown place. But we don't forget where we come from, where our ancestors walked the ground and protected the lands. But anytime you have economic development from a tribal government, the whole region, they benefit as well, because we are a government and we want to take care of our people. We want to create our own destiny. And making sure that that language is protected and given to the next 7 generations and beyond.
And the success that Mille Lacs has had is attributable to her leadership.
Making Minnesota a better place for all. I'm grateful for the achievements we've had together.
My definition of the good life is that people are safe, they have shelter, they have their food, they have opportunity. One of my favorite projects is called We Win, Women Empowering Women for Indian Nations. And we do personal development, legal training, so that we can continue to share our knowledge and grow interest in younger people to run for office. It's unbelievable when you see your people and the gifts that they have, and you're able to help them, that there are extraordinary possibilities in ordinary people. Everyone has a gift.
And it's an honor to call Melanie Benjamin my friend. Congratulations, Melanie.
Melanie Benjamin, ladies and gentlemen.
Buju, Anin Anishinaabe Duke, Mino Gijigad Nungum, Mandaman, Indigenous Cause, Melanie Benjamin. Good evening, everyone, and it's so great to see all of you, and many of the people that I have worked with over my tenure as chief executive. And I wanted to start by talking a little bit about my memory of your mother, Melissa Hartman, and what a great person she was. And she brought me in one day and said, I want to do a Sovereignty Day. I think it's something that we need to do to bridge the gap, to educate the legislature about the 11 tribes in the state of Minnesota. And she had a lot of plans during that conversation, and she implemented all of those. So it's heartfelt. Thank you for on behalf of your mother. Miigwech, I am honored to accept this award and grateful to the Humphrey School. Any victories for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe during my tenure, we won as a community. I owe everything to the people of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Chief Executive Art Gabo chose me to be the Commissioner of Administration, and the traditional elders approached me several decades ago and told me that they had decided that I should run for the position of Chief Executive. I learned many, many things from those tribal elders and tribal leaders like Art Gabo, Marge Anderson, and Roger Jourdain, who were the strongest and most educated about tribal sovereignty. Ultimately, I learned that there were 7 grandfather teachings, which are principles in Anishinaabe culture that guide individuals on how to live a good life. They are love, respect, bravery, truth, honesty, humility, and wisdom, each representing important values to live by. My mother, Frances Staples, Boschking, as she was called by her traditional name, she taught me many, many things, and she and my other mentors, they did not sit me down and say, oh, by the way, we're going to talk about bravery or humility today. Instead, they lived those values every day and taught me by their actions. Those were the most important educators that I have ever had. I had the privilege to work for the people of the Mille Lacs Band as we succeeded in economic development, won lawsuits on our treaty rights, and led the way on some important state and federal issues. We fought for what our ancestors who signed treaties were promised, and we fought those battles for the 7 generations to come. And when I think about the 7 generations, what we do today will have that impact. And I think about my family, and I have part of my family here. I also come from a large family. My mom had 12 kids and adopted 1, and so I have many brothers and sisters, and I didn't invite any of them down, by the way. Instead, I have my son, Clayton Benjamin, my daughter-in-law, Candace Benjamin, 2 of my granddaughters, Roxanne and Danica, and then I have a grandson and another granddaughter back at home, and I have a great-grandson. His name is Majakwad, and he loves his grandma Mel. Yeah, so. And I have to interject this, but I was talking to my son, and they were driving back from Brainerd or somewhere, and I was talking about an issue, and my little grandson, yes, yes, and I just had to laugh so hard because he was just intently listening and learning from our conversation, so I was really, really happy to hear them, and he always makes me laugh. And I have a niece also that she has 6 kids, and they all call me grandma too, so a lot of grandkids. So as I think about this evening tonight, it's really an honor to be recognized and to be a part of history, and some of the very large names have come across the stage as well. So with that, it's with the humility that I learned from my mentors that I accept this award, but I view it as an award for the people of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, Miigwech.
Tonight, we also celebrate Joan Grow. Yes. Joan Grow is Minnesota's longest-serving Secretary of State. For 24 years, she championed accessible, fair, and transparent elections, implementing same-day voter registration that I benefited from when I moved to Minnesota, and ensuring Minnesota's leadership in voter turnout. She is a trailblazer for civic engagement nationwide. Let's watch.
I think it makes everybody feel better doing something, if only holding a sign.
We're going to save democracy right now.
I'll be 90 years old this month.
Joan is always going to be out there fighting. She's a woman on a mission. She's always going to be out there organizing.
It was concern for my children. They would have to fight unjust and unwinnable wars.
She's always going to be helping women.
Moving into politics was almost accidental. I had been very active in the League of Women Voters. There's an open seat. It's a Republican district. We're going to get a Republican woman to run. She was probably the best qualified person I have ever met. They didn't endorse her. Well, several people said, Joan, you're going to have to run. And then when we have coffee parties, he will learn what the issues are, how we feel about them. There was never really a thought in my mind that I was going to win, but it was this group of women who were doing something and they felt so good about it. I didn't feel it was my victory, it was really our victory. And in fact, for my whole 2 years there, the women from the neighborhood and from the campaign came over in little groups to help me. Well, the legislature in that term passed a huge election bill. I thought it was wonderful. It brings more people to the polls. The current Secretary of State was opposed to those changes. And that's actually what motivated me to run for Secretary of State. And thanks to just many neighbors and folks around the state, we won. We won that race, which was also a little shocking.
Unlike her predecessor, she really stepped into the role of cheerleader for voting, and to great effect. Thanks to her and many initiatives that she started, Minnesota has enjoyed a leadership role year after year after year when it comes to voter turnout.
And you learn how many dedicated people there are around this state, how many people care about Minnesota, about the democratic system, and how many people want to take care of it and preserve it.
Everyone in Minnesota who's ever voted is familiar with that iconic red I voted sticker that you get at the polling place when you vote. That was Joan Grow's idea.
We were proud of what we did. It was to open the doors for more people to be able to register and vote. And it was our responsibility.
Joan didn't just, shatter the glass ceiling. She lit a torch for other women and passed it on.
So I'm thinking about the next large statewide demonstration is in the middle of October. So I've got to go make a new No King sign. Can we join you? Of course, come on, come on. It says women on a mission.
Joan Grow, everyone.
This is so well organized, they've got my notes here. Wonder why we never did that when I was in office. It would have been a lot easier. Anyway.
You didn't have us in your office.
That's right. I knew I made several mistakes, but anyway, thank you, and good evening to everyone. Thank you, Dean Nishway, to the committee. Thank you who worked so hard on this dinner and put it together. To all of the staff who I know worked hard, and hours, including Janie Peterson for the video. I am truly honored to receive this award. And as you could see from the video, I've been at this business of politics for a long time. When I first ran for the legislature 53 years ago, out of 200, out of 201 legislators, there was one woman. Remember that, you young women here. Remember the history of how long it has taken. And then, that year, 1972, 5 of us were newly elected to join the one woman, and we had 6 women out of 201. Well, the headline in the newspaper read, "The women are taking over." And there was actually some real fear in the legislature that the women, and maybe there were too many of them and we were going to take over, but it was not to be. Instead, what we have is hatred and divisiveness that are taking over. Committees are being torn apart, communities are being torn apart, districts are being rewritten so that artificially represent the voters. And the very principles of democracy are being tossed aside. And what I fear is that complacency is taking over among us. The challenges seem so great. The disruption is so overwhelming. You just want to turn the television set off. It can feel like there is nothing that we can do about it. And I know it's hard to believe that once we've accomplished something, it can all be rolled over, it can be completely demolished just like that. That's why it takes perseverance and commitment to the long term. And I'm sure all of you understand exactly what I'm talking about. 30 years ago, in 1994, I was in South Africa as a United Nations elections observer for the first free and fair election that South Africa held. Everyone in the country was being allowed to vote, and that included people regardless of the color of your skin. 20 million people lined up to vote in that country over a period of 4 days. It was the most incredible sight and experience I have ever had. Many, many people waited days to vote. They stood in line, they kind of plop down at night and sleep there, and then they'd stay in line the next day. And I remember walking out of a polling place and looking out at this huge field, and the line waiting to get into the polling place was like a big snake curved around. And I thought, oh my God, these people are standing out in the hot sun. They've probably been there for 2 days, and they're going to be there a bit more. And so I thought, what can I do? I look a little silly doing anything, but I thought I'd try something. So I walked down the line talking to people, and I would say things like, inane things like, don't worry, there's going to be plenty of ballots. Don't worry, you're going to get your opportunity to vote. Yes, it's nice to see you. Don't worry, yes, you're going to be able to vote. And all of a sudden, an elderly woman put her hand on my arm, and she said, you know, it took me 80 years to vote. 2 more days doesn't make any difference. I thought that was quite a lesson in perseverance and commitment for the long term. Now, next week, I turn 90, and I had some visions a few years ago when I was young and 70 and 80 about what I would do when I was 90, and I thought, well, I'm going to sit around and eat a lot of chocolate, and I'm going to watch movies on television and just do nothing. Well, so far it hasn't happened, and I only have about 8 days left to hit that 90. But you just can't be complacent when you look at what's happening in the world. You can't give up. And once we do that, we lose our footing. And that's where community comes in. If it hadn't been that community in 1972 that helped elect me for the very first time, that kind of rose up to help with that campaign, to add some expertise. And I must tell you, it was primarily women who did that. The men couldn't be bothered because we weren't going to win anyway. But that's community that helped it. It was almost exclusively women. We would never have accomplished all that we had done without that community. And that's why I think that the Humphrey School of Public Affairs is so vital. This is a community committed to changing the world. And I have been involved with the Humphrey for many, many years. I think I sat on one of the first advisory committees that they had, and I've loved the place ever since. But this is a place that is committed to change. This is a place that is training the leaders of tomorrow who will direct all of that change, and that's never been more needed than today. So I'm going to challenge each and every one of you to embrace our community. Lean into your strength together and rise up to the challenges that we face today. There is an African proverb that I like, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Let's go together as a community. Let's go together to make a difference. Let's go far together. Thank you very much. Thank you, Julie.
I'm feeling full, although I didn't eat anything yet. My heart is full. I am so thankful for this evening. And now we're on to our final honoree. Our final honoree is Dennis McDonough. U.S. Secretary of Veterans Affairs and son of Minnesota, whose leadership has spanned the highest levels of government. He is recognized for his lifelong commitment to public service and advancing the common good. Let's take a look.
Well, I ain't got a clue what the future brings. I wish I could invent some kind of time machine.
Growing up in Stillwater, Sunday afternoon dinner was family time, and you couldn't miss it, no matter what. If you did, you let down the one person you hated to let down, Mom. I was reminded of my mom's focus on the importance of family dinners shortly after I became White House Chief of Staff in February 2013. And the First Lady called me to say that the evening wrap-up walks I was taking with the President were making him late to family dinner. She expected the President to be home for dinner with her and the girls every night he was in town at 6:30 sharp. And if he wasn't, I would have to answer to her as to why. There's no guidebook for a lot of those jobs in Washington. But let's be honest, those jobs aren't rocket science either. In his great book on Vice President Humphrey, Jim Traub wrote, "He had the charisma of the passionate believer without the stridency of the ideologue. He worked harder than anyone, made more friends than anyone, talked faster and more ardently than anyone," which is kind of like saying Hubert Humphrey was good at his job because he was a Minnesotan. It's not like I learned everything I needed to know in kindergarten about jobs in Washington. But it is that I was wrong to be as worried as I was in 1994 when I moved to Washington about whether a kid from Stillwater, Minnesota could make it there.
From afar at the older me, maybe then I'd stop worrying. They say that time will tell.
And that's because important lessons like ensuring that your teammates, including if that teammate is the President of the United States, got home in time for dinner with their families, able to recharge and be reminded of what's most important, were ingrained in me by my family, my teachers, my coaches, well before I arrived in Washington. Like my sister Mary, who knew from high school that she would dedicate her life to teaching high schoolers with severe developmental disabilities. Today in retirement, remaining in constant contact with her students and with their families out of a belief that each of us is made in the image of God. Teachers like George Hepner of Stillwater High School, who took a segment of 11th grade English class once a week for quick vignettes about great Americans. Many of them Minnesotans, all of them hardworking, regular people. And teachers like Isla Perlmutter, author and hard-nosed English professor at St. John's, who routinely reminded us of the value of reading and the value of a handwritten note. And coaches like Joe Samuelson at Stillwater High School, a veteran of Day One at Omaha Beach on D-Day, and who continued to coach well into his 70s, personifying the link between community service and national strength. And John Gallardi, the St. John's legend and winningest ever college football coach, who taught us the dignity of knowing and addressing each of his players by their first name. Staying focused on and drawing strength from family, making friends, recognizing everyone's worth, working hard, writing thank you notes, treating people with respect. That's what it takes in Washington. And that's what, in memory of its namesake, the Humphrey School teaches in its mission to advance the common good, with its focus on social justice and human rights, and an expertise in planning, leadership, and management.
I need a new perspective, a sense of direction, to find out where this river goes at the end of the day. Who knows? Who knows?
Good evening. We're Paul and Susan Nakasone,
We're really good friends of Dennis and Kari McDonough. And while we can't be with you tonight, we are really thrilled that Dennis is being recognized.
He has been an incredible public leader throughout his amazing career. To him, it's always about others in the public and never about himself.
Now, if you're in DC and you see black suburbans, it's really one thing. There's some elected official or some VIP that's there.
And then it hit me. I said, Dennis, those are for you. He goes, yeah, they are. He said, I still walk outside and see him sometimes and think, wow, who's here? Who's important?
After all, he's always Dennis to me and many of us, just a cool dude from Stillwater, Minnesota. That never changed. Always so humble and genuine, and makes us all so proud of him as a fellow Minnesotan.
Good evening. I'm not the dentist, so you probably know, but good evening again. I actually prepared some remarks for Dennis, long time, but I got the way better note late last night, right before my flight. So instead, I'm gonna read off that note, but pardon me for my heavy Minnesotan accent, so hope you can understand. So here comes. To everyone gathered this evening, I want to join you in congratulating my good friend Dennis McDonough on this well-deserved honor. Even though I'm not there, I can tell he's a little embarrassed. Dennis has always been a humble guy, which is not surprising given his Stillwater, Minnesota roots. But his humility has always been accompanied by powerful intellect, deep experience, and tireless dedication to the people he serves. That's why I choose Dennis as my chief foreign policy advisor while I was still in the Senate. And that's why I looked to him for advice and leadership in the White House as our first indispensable member of my national security team, and then as my chief of staff. To me, Dennis has always been consummate public servant. Few people are better at hearing the people out, forging consensus, making sure policy are implemented, than holding everyone accountable, including himself. And despite the incredible pressure of his job, anyone who has ever worked with the Dennis will tell you that he's always first to check in and send a handwritten thank you note or ask about your family. I can't think of a better example of a next generation public servant to follow. So Dennis, thank you for your service and your friendship, and congratulations again. I know Kari and the rest of your family are incredibly proud. Signed by Barack Obama.
Dean, thank you so much. And let me say, as Joan did, thank you to the great staff. In particular, I want to shout out Val, who's just been tireless. Thank you for all your work. And Joan, wherever you're going, I'm with you. So more power to you. Thanks, Dean, to the Humphrey School for this honor, and for something even more important, since it was one of your alumni and a fellow Johnny, Mike Zumwinkle, and his wife Lori, who introduced me to the most important person in my life and the most impactful public servant I've ever seen, and that's my wife, Kari. Thanks. Thanks to my siblings, many of whom are here tonight. each a public servant who sees Christ in everyone and welcomes everyone as if they are Christ, like St. Benedict taught, and as we learned at St. Ben's and at St. John's. And speaking of St. Ben's and St. John's, President Brees, Chair Stewart, Kiyoshi, Rob, all of you, thank you, Ken. Thank you so much for being here and for all that you've done for us. Now, as one of 11 kids, it's a little more than Dave, but a little fewer than Melanie. You know where you belong and where you don't. And I don't belong with these three awesome public servants. Mayor Kleiss, an Air Force vet, who, like so many vets in this room, signed to give everything for us. So it's such an honor to be associated with you. But being with these model public servants does offer a moment to reflect. We sometimes focus on public and we lose service. Not these three, and not Hubert Humphrey. We learn in two recent biographies that Humphrey governed as mayor as he had campaigned. He listened to the people of Minneapolis, including those he disagreed with, and he acted to address their concerns and their problems, not ideas he studied in a textbook or grievances and grudges formed in a difficult childhood. He advanced their interests, not his own. President Obama, and Kiyoshi, I'm so touched by that, thank you. President Obama always said that change didn't come from Washington. It came, he said, from the American people to Washington. We saw that with Humphrey and his relationship with two Minneapolis residents, a black newspaper publisher named Cecil Newman and a Jewish attorney named Sam Shiner, whose lived experience in Minneapolis with racism and anti-Semitism shaped new policy in Minneapolis, changed the National Democratic Party, and helped enact the Civil Rights Act. Newman's and Shiner's ideas and experience changed this city, this state, and this country. Because their mayor recognized that the interests of his Jewish and black fellow citizens were, in fact, his own interests. Mayor Humphrey knew, and surely he learned this in South Dakota in the Great Depression, that the good of his neighbor is, in fact, his good. The Humphrey School's continued focus on this idea, the common good, is why I am confident that the students here at the Humphrey School, including so many of you that I met tonight, will continue to push relentlessly as Joan challenged us, tirelessly as Joan challenged us, for change and to enact that change. It won't be easy. We were reminded last spring in Brooklyn Park and Champlin, this summer at Annunciation School, and yes, just last week in Utah, of the despicable reach of violence, including political violence. And that, as the dean said, makes your work here that much more important, that much more critical and timely. So thank you again for this profound honor, and I can't wait to see all the things that the Humphrey School will continue to accomplish. Thank you very much.
As we bring this evening to a close, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude. Tonight, we have honored remarkable leaders, each of whom reminds us that public service is about courage, persistence, and lifting others up. We've also been reminded of why this school exists, to prepare the next generation of leaders to carry that important work forward. I want to thank our honorees, our sponsors, our advisory and honorary councils, and all of you who made this evening possible. Your presence here is itself an act of commitment to our students, to the mission of the Humphrey School, and to the enduring value of leadership for the common good. It is my privilege to share this stage with a leader who himself embodies that spirit of service and civility. Peter Bell, our Humphrey School Advisory Council Chair, is known across Minnesota for his lifelong commitment to bridging divides, strengthening civic dialogue, and advancing the common good. Peter has always modeled the kind of principled leadership our democracy needs. Peter, I'm grateful for your partnership, and I invite you to join me in closing this evening.
Thank you so much, Dean, for those very kind words. And I'd like us to give a round of applause to the Dean and as President Cunningham said as she opened our dinner tonight, Dean Botchaway has done a remarkable job at strengthening the Humphrey School and its impact on our civic life, both in the state of Minnesota and really around the country. And I think she needs to be recognized and honored for that. Really, the legacy we share tonight is based on a few very simple and important points. The first in my mind is we must always remember that pursuing the truth is our number one goal, and that is particularly true in academia. We must never forget that and always cherish that point. I think the second point is that our integrity and values are the most important thing we carry into any public or private service job. And we should never surrender that under any circumstances, because once it is gone, I think it is very, very hard to recapture. I want to thank our honorees, our sponsors, our advisory and honorary councils, and all of you who made this evening possible. Your presence here is itself an act of commitment to our students, to the mission of the Humphrey School, and to the enduring values of leadership for the common good. As you leave tonight, I encourage you to stay connected with us, to support our students, to keep building the hopeful and resilient communities that Hubert Humphrey envisioned. Thank you again for being part of this celebration. Together we can ensure that the light of public service continues to shine brightly for generations to come. Thank you all very much.
I'll just leave you with a word. It's Ubuntu. It means I am because we are. There is a stronger democracy because we engage in it. We have a stronger democracy because we educate students and leaders to support it, to fix it, to grow it, to expand the opportunity for people to engage and be a part of it. No one does this on their own. We do it together. And so as you leave, I leave you with Ubuntu. Please carry that into your continued service, into your work. Thank you.
Very good. Great program. Just great program. Yes. It was just wonderful.
Thank you.
It really was.
Well, let's take the stairs.
Yeah.